I believe that everyone can succeed in science. We just need to explain it in the right way, a way that makes sense to you. You are made of billions of cells, but some living things are much simpler and are made of only one single cell. Many living things that are only one cell big fall into a group called prokaryotes. Prokaryotes include bacteria and a group of living things called archaea. This video will focus on prokaryotes. I'll help you understand what they are and how they're different from eukaryotes. To do this, we'll focus on bacteria. If you have just one of them, we call it a bacterium. I've split this video up into 5 chapters, so feel free to skip ahead if there's some bits you feel confident about already. So let's get started. If you're new here, welcome to BioSmash. I'm Jo, I'm a science teacher. I'll help you smash biology revision. If I asked you to picture a typical cell, what would you think of? Did you picture something like this, which is a typical animal cell? Animals, including humans, fall into the group of eukaryotes. Let's look at 3 examples of eukaryotes. As we already mentioned, there are animals. There are also fungi, like mushrooms and yeast, and there are plants. Let's start by looking at what's similar between eukaryotes and prokaryotes. Hopefully, you recognise the labels on this diagram of a eukaryotic cell. Some of these parts are also present in prokaryotes, such as the cell membrane and the cytoplasm. When thinking about cells, I think it's helpful to think of a bag full of liquid. So the cell is like a bag and it's filled with a liquid. Now, if we draw a diagram of our cell, it will look something like this. You can see the bag, which is the outside of the cell, and you can see the liquid inside the bag. So if we're thinking of a cell as a bag full of liquid, the bag would be the cell membrane, and the cell membrane, the bag, controls what gets in and out of the cell. So I've drawn this picture to try and help you imagine the cell membrane. So the cell membrane is like a wall. A lot of things can't get through it, but there's special passages to let certain things through. So this cell membrane will let sugar in and oxygen in through special passages. And there's also a special passage so that waste products can get out. And on this picture, you can see a picture of the cell, and the sugar and the oxygen molecules are moving into the cell through the cell membrane, and the waste is moving out. So the cell membrane is controlling what enters and leaves the cell. The cytoplasm is the liquid that's inside the cell. So in my model earlier, the cytoplasm would be the water that's inside the bag. If you could look inside the cytoplasm, you would see lots of chemical reactions happening. And these chemical reactions help to keep the cell alive. We can label the cell membrane and cytoplasm on our diagrams. Here's the cell membrane, and here's the cytoplasm. You may also know that there are ribosomes in the cell's cytoplasm, and ribosomes are important for building proteins for the cell. Prokaryotes also contain ribosomes, although their ribosomes are smaller than those found in eukaryotes. If you want to know more about ribosomes, you could watch this video, which is linked below. We already mentioned that animals are not the only type of eukaryote. There are also plants and fungi, including yeast. These cells are surrounded by a cell wall. It's like you've put the plant cell inside a box. I've labelled the cell walls here. Prokaryotic cells are also surrounded by a cell wall. If you have to answer an exam question about eukaryotes and prokaryotes, try to squeeze in as many keywords as you can. I'll summarise them now to help you. Eukaryotes have a cell membrane, and prokaryotes have a cell membrane. Eukaryotes have a cytoplasm, and so do prokaryotes. Eukaryotes have ribosomes, but they're larger, whereas the ribosomes in prokaryotes are smaller. Some eukaryotic cells have cell walls, such as plant cells and yeast cells, and prokaryotic cells also have cell walls. Now, let's look at some of the differences between eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells. The first thing you need to remember is the difference in size. Prokaryotic cells are much smaller than eukaryotic cells. Give this video a thumbs up if you're starting to understand this topic better. The 2 types of cells also differ when it comes to membrane-bound organelles. Organelles are little compartments inside cells that carry out particular functions, and they usually have a membrane around them. To help you picture that using our model, I've added some peas and sweet corn to inside the bag, so these are the cell parts inside the cell. One example of these cell parts, or organelles, is the nucleus, which is surrounded by a nuclear membrane. The nucleus is found inside the cytoplasm and it looks like a hollow ball. If you look inside the nucleus, you'll find pieces of DNA called chromosomes. If you want to look at the nucleus in more detail, then you could watch this video, which I'll link below. Mitochondria are also an example of an organelle, and mitochondria also have a membrane around them. Now, mitochondria can be a bit confusing because when we're talking about just one of them, we call it a mitochondrion. But when we're talking about lots of them, we call them mitochondria. As we've discussed in our previous videos, the job of mitochondria is to break down sugar and release energy from it for the cell. This process is called respiration. As you might have guessed, I've already made a video about mitochondria, so I'll link that below in case you want to watch it. In addition to the nucleus and mitochondria, plant cells also contain chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are another example of an organelle, and they carry out the process of photosynthesis. If you want to know more about photosynthesis, you might like to check out this video linked below. I really hope you're finding this video helpful. If you are, then please do click subscribe. It will help you to find my other videos. Unlike eukaryotes, prokaryotes don't contain membrane-bound organelles. Instead of having lots of chromosomes like eukaryotes, prokaryotic cells have one single circular strand of DNA. This circular strand of DNA contains all of the genetic material to carry out the basic functions a cell needs, and it's found floating freely in the cytoplasm. You might have spotted that this prokaryote also has little loops of DNA in the cytoplasm. These little loops are called plasmids, and they carry extra genes that the bacterium has picked up over time. So, for example, there might be genes on there that make the bacterium resistant to certain antibiotics. Let's look at some key phrases you can use to describe the differences between eukaryotes and prokaryotes. Eukaryotic cells are larger and prokaryotic cells are smaller. In eukaryotes, the DNA is found in the nucleus, but in prokaryotes, the DNA is found free in the cytoplasm and is just a single circular strand of DNA. Eukaryotes contain lots of membrane-bound organelles, such as mitochondria and chloroplasts. However, prokaryotes don't have any membrane-bound organelles, so they don't contain mitochondria or chloroplasts. If you want to check how much you've remembered and understood, keep listening because I've put together some questions so you can test yourself. I'm going to show you several statements. For each one, the answer is going to be either eukaryotes, prokaryotes, or both. So you can just write down E, P, or B. So statement number 1, which has DNA as its genetic material? Is that eukaryotes, prokaryotes, or both? Number 2, which cells contain cytoplasm? Number 3, which contain ribosomes? Number 4, which contain plasmids? And number 5, which contain mitochondria? The answers are coming up very soon, so pause the video now if you need more time to think. Learning key definitions that you can write out in exam questions is a really good way to boost your grades. If you want some more help with this, you might want to check out the resources I've produced, which are linked below. So the answer to the first one is both, because they both have DNA. In prokaryotes, the DNA is free in the cytoplasm in a loop. In eukaryotes, it's found inside the nucleus. Number 2, both groups of organisms have cells containing cytoplasm. Number 3 is also both. Ribosomes in prokaryotes are smaller than those in eukaryotes, but they still both have them. Number 4 is the prokaryotes. They contain plasmids, which are little loops of DNA. And number 5, only eukaryotes contain mitochondria because mitochondria are membrane-bound organelles. Well done for reaching this point in the video. If you haven't got it all yet, then don't worry, just go back and watch it again until you've got all of the key ideas. And if you think you've got that hang of this one, then why not watch this video next? Hope to see you soon.